Okay, guys, by the end of this video, you are going to be able to avoid one of the biggest mistakes that you could ever make in your life. If I knew this years ago, oh my goodness, if I avoided this entirely, I probably could have literally 10x my life by this point. So what I wanted to do was just get on here, make a video, just so you guys can avoid all the BS and basically just get straight to enjoying your life and winning every single day. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. By far, one of the biggest and most frustrating mistakes I ever made was quitting too early. And you guys have probably seen that that meme of like the guy mining. I don't know if you know that guy mining. He's like just about to get to the breakthrough and he just turns around and quits. That's literally the worst thing you could ever do, because what you can do, what you're basically doing when you're quitting too early, I mean, basically giving up on a good opportunity before allowing it to get the chance, like allowing it the chance to get the result that you wanted. So, for example, by changing business models every 6 months, jumping from one startup to another, or one agency to another, or whatever it may be, doing crypto, doing this, doing that, you basically kick yourself while you're already down and shoot yourself in the foot time and time and time again. Of course, this is a double-edged sword, because obviously you want to be in the best opportunity vehicle. You don't want to be in a weak opportunity vehicle for too long, because everyone knows that's a really good way of wasting time. But the thing is, there's quite a strong chance that you haven't given the current opportunity vehicle you're currently in enough time to actually see success, because it is almost impossible to see success in any opportunity vehicle across anything, not even just business models, but literally anything. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But I think basically everyone knows the Warren Buffett quote, and if you don't already know the Warren Buffett quote, it doesn't matter how hard you row, it matters what boat you're in, something to that tune. But the thing is, by being too conscious of this advice, which I think everyone can, it's good advice, but by being too conscious of that, it's really just too easy to switch boats a little bit too easily. And I think the reason for that is because, do you know what a really good way of wasting time is? It's spending 6 months in an opportunity, getting that close to a result, and then giving up and moving to the next thing and having to start all over again. And having to put in the requisite 6 months that it takes to get results again, and doing that time and time and over again. Because if you do that 3 times, you've just wasted 18 months, and now you're thinking nothing works. But in reality, all you did was put 6 months in to 3 different things that took maybe 7 months to work. Let's say it probably takes 6 to 12 months to get something to work. But you just didn't give it the 6 months. You just put in the groundwork in different niches or different things 3 times and got no results any times. And like I said, it's not really with business models. It might be with an offer. It might be with an access channel. It might be with an employee. It might be with a relationship. It's all of these things. And it can happen in so many bad ways in just different areas. So you want to avoid this. This is what I'm saying. You have to avoid this. And I'll talk about how you can do that in a second. But, for example, if you start running ads and after the 3rd day, you're like, oh, well, I spent $100 and it didn't work. I didn't get any leads. When you start doing cold email and you send 100 emails, you don't get any replies. So you're like, oh, well, it doesn't work. And I'm talking about even in more extreme examples, maybe you sent like 10,000 and it didn't work. But maybe it was going to be the 11,000th that was when you cracked it. Maybe it was, or maybe you commit to daily content, and then on the 5th day, you're already hitting everyone with the, oh damn, guys, I don't want everyone to make this video, but I'm showing up on camera anyway type video. And then that's kind of the thing that just shows that you're getting really close to your limit and you're about to give up right before you're about to get results. Because if you do that too many times, if you do it too many times in a row, what happens is you just end up running in a circle every few months, and you have to start from scratch, and you're screwed. It's like, what's the whole point of that? I'm sure you guys probably know Hormozi. If you get to this corner of the internet to see my channel, you probably watch Hormozi, probably know who he is. He said that in his webinar, he said it took 6 months to get his cold outreach mechanisms to work. So it's kind of like one of these things where you think, if it took him 6 months to get his cold outreach mechanisms to work, what makes you think that within 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a couple months, that yours should be working? If Hormozi took 6 months, why should yours take less than that? Are you operating at a higher level than Hormozi? Maybe, I don't know. If you are, let's connect. Teach me some stuff, because I'm open to learn, 100%. But if you aren't, which is completely fine, by the way, because I'm not going to say I'm higher level than Hormozi, or even just using Hormozi as kind of like an arbitrary higher than thou figure, it just means that there's a lot of work to do. You're not meant to be that good. You just have to do the work, because like I said, it takes most things 6 to 12 months at least before it starts to work. When it comes, like I said, if it comes to running ads a certain way, if it comes to a new strategy, if it comes to a relationship that you're really just getting your teeth stuck into, if it comes to, even like in an NBA example, even when, Kyrie Irving Kevin Durant and James Harden all got to the Nets, it took a little while for it to work. Even though the firepower was there, the skill was there, there's just some type of thing. There's like a universal law that says if you're about to try to do something, you have to pay your dues before it's even allowed to work. It's like there's this invisible barrier that prevents you from getting results. So I guess that's all great, but what are the actionable steps from that, I suppose? So now if I'm testing something in my company, if I'm trying to start something new, whether that's even in a business standpoint or whether that's a relationship thing or whatever it may be, I just want to make absolute sure that we're not leaving anything to chance. So the worst thing that you can possibly do is exactly what the Nets did with Harden and Durant and Kyrie. They spent a couple of years building up a team and then they quit. Who is to say that the next year they wouldn't have gelled and gotten the chip and won the whole thing? You don't know. So the only way really to know is to just do insane amounts of volume, testing really, really fast and failing really fast, and actually building in these feedback loops so we can progress and grow as people and businesses. So what I mean by making a feedback loop, it basically just means we're going to try something completely all out and do a lot of tests and figure out, hey, did that thing work? Did that thing work? Did it work if we did it this way? Did it work if we did it this way? Did it work if we did it this way? Did it work if we brought that guy in? Did it work if we brought that guy in? And basically running like a scientific test. If you guys did science in school, like a scientific variable test where you change one thing at a time, that's basically what I mean by doing feedback loops and running tests. You basically want to do that as many times as you possibly can because you'd be amazed at how many people say, when is the right time to give up on an opportunity? That's like a big question. And the truth is, it's really, really hard to know. There's a massive dilemma because, like I said, people know the Warren Buffett thing where it's like, hey, don't get in a bad vehicle. Don't get in a bad vehicle. And that's it's a real thing. It's not like some bullshit advice from some idiot. It's Warren Buffett. So it's really important that you keep that advice in mind. But you also want to avoid shiny object syndrome. So it's like this massive clash of two objective truths. So that kind of finds the dilemma of like, you want to know what the best vehicle is. You want to know what's the easiest and fastest thing that I'm going to get results for. But at the same time, you don't want to throw in the towel too early on a great idea. So the truth is, like, it's quite obvious after explaining it that way, I think, at least to me, that's really, really difficult to determine when you want to give up on an idea and when you want to give it a bit more of a chance. So to be honest, if you're going to make a decision like that, you really need a lot of context. And when I say context, I don't just mean, oh yeah, I know what happened. I mean, you have to go out and actually get more context. So you have to, like I said, run these tests. So if you have context of your exact situation, even in future and different situations, for example, like in the Nets example, what if James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant, maybe they need a better center. Maybe they need a better point guard. Maybe you need to put KD at the 5. Maybe you need to put James Harden. Maybe you need to put him in a different position. What happens if KD runs the point guard? What happens if this happens? What happens if you bring in a different person? What happens if you bring James Harden off the bench? You actually have to go out and get that additional context. You know what I mean? So like I said, the worst thing that can happen, that's what I said before, is that you're on the verge of finding success and then you give up and you have to pivot and start from scratch. So in that sense, what I'm kind of saying is the only viable option is to just squeeze the absolute most out of the lemon before you try something else. Because if you have to pick something else up, you want to know in your mind, I don't really want to pivot. I don't really want to change it because I know I'm going to have to put in that 6-12 months of work to actually get the new thing to work. And I know I've already put in this amount of work to this opportunity. So maybe it's, do I want to think about what's the cost benefit here? Because sometimes if a lemon is like half squeezed, like if there's like a little bit of juice left in a lemon, it's kind of hard to get that juice out. Like it's really, really hard. Or you can sometimes pick up a new lemon and that new lemon is like, as soon as you just squeeze a little bit, it just floods out with juice. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a toothpaste, can of toothpaste or a tube of toothpaste. When you get to the end and you have to twist it up to squeeze that last little bit of toothpaste out, sometimes it's not worth it. And the juice is not worth the squeeze. And it's just easier to start afresh. But you have to really analyze how much juice is left in this opportunity. How many more different contexts can I actually apply this opportunity before I move to the next thing? Before I know for sure, basically, that I should move to the next thing. So in more of a business context, because that's kind of what I'm more about and what this channel is more about, it might mean that you're going to lose some money testing on ads. You might have to pay some people to get help, and you might have to set up outbound campaigns that just flop. But the actual value proposition of doing that, the reason why you should do that, why it would be worth it, is that you will know for absolute certain that you did everything that you could and you left everything out there on the field. Because at the end of the day, that's really all you can say before making a decision. All you can say when you're making a call is like, am I making the most informed possible decision right now? Is this the absolute most informed, most skilled decision that I could be making? Am I acting off emotion? Am I just saying, oh, this is too hard? Because the thing is, like, everyone wants to say that they're not emotional. Everyone would say, oh, yeah, I'm super logical. Oh, yeah, I did maths in school. Oh, yeah, I'm a business owner. I'm super logical. Yeah, people aren't really that logical. So at this point, you really just need to say, I am just going to commit to myself that I'm going to attempt to make the most informed decision that I possibly could. Because like I said, the only real solution to the dilemma of like, am I in the right vehicle, is just to do everything you possibly can to prove that the vehicle is the problem and it's not your skills or your mindset. And another thing to kind of keep in mind there is like, it's not always going to be your skills or your mindset, and it's not always going to be the vehicle. Sometimes it's just time. Sometimes time just has to pass for something to work. Like I said, it's like this invisible barrier. It's like, yeah, obviously you have things like beginner's luck, but sometimes it just does feel like there's this invisible barrier and you're almost like crashing up against the invisible barrier. And it's just like, you can't even cross that Rubicon before a certain amount of time passes. Like, for example, there was a time where we had a client, and you can be sending cold emails for a little while and people don't always reply to a cold email. So we actually thought a campaign wasn't even a good campaign. We thought, it's a losing campaign, cut it. Cut that campaign. But what happened was 3 months later, someone reached out and signed a big deal off that cold email. So it was literally just that we had to wait. We couldn't have actually known. It wouldn't have mattered how much we sent or how much volume we did. It just so happened that we couldn't have possibly gotten that result without that person becoming ready to buy over that 3 months and then reaching out back to us and saying, hey, that was a great email. Can I book a call? And then they obviously bought. And what happened there as a result was that we just lost out on a campaign that might have got a client, and maybe we only sent 1,000 emails. So all of a sudden you're thinking, shit, we just sent 1,000 emails and we might get 20, 30K of LTV, lifetime value, out of that deal. Maybe we shouldn't have cut that campaign. And obviously in these scenarios, you can probably think, it's probably tough to predict that you're going to get a deal out of that when it took 3 months. But the thing is, what we did was we were like, okay, this is what we see as the most amount of context that we need to make an informed decision to cut the campaign. And then it kind of just turned out the other way, and that's going to happen as well, because that's kind of another thing. The lesson in there is that sometimes you do the right thing and you get screwed over anyway. So it's like, welcome to life. And that's just kind of how it is. What else? I watched that video of the Jenny AI founder, David Park. He took like 4 years before his copywriting tool hit its first 10K a month. It's literally just because he founded it when it was GPT-2. And he did like thousands of cold calls. Nobody even cared. No one gave a shit, pretty much. And then GPT-3 comes out. His product gets 1 million times better. Everyone's trying to use it. And he goes from 0 to 100K a month in just a few months. You know what I mean? So he might have had, people asking him to buy it. He might have had XYZ offers. He might have been able to make money. He might have been able to quit and go and choose something else and choose another vehicle. But it was just the time, because the new GPT had to come out. And he couldn't predict that. He was like, nah, he was just bullish. He was like, nah. Now his company's worth like 25 mil. So it's like, sometimes you also have to be relentlessly stubborn to just wait and just say, nah, this is my thing. And you almost just have to use all this. Like, I hope that the purpose of this video is basically just to give you the logic and the way that I'm sort of thinking about it. Because people always ask me it. Excuse me. But yeah, obviously you can do things to sort of find out whether it's going to work or not at a faster rate. But you also have to be patient. And you also have to trust in your own decisions. Because really, at the end of the day, you're not going to know if it was a good or bad call until you make an informed decision, you stick to your guns, and you just keep going from there. And if I was going to give one piece of advice, it's just that Rome wasn't built in a day. Things are really fucking stressful all the time. Like, it's pretty normal for something to be stressful and bad. That's like the native state of being a human. If you're into any sort of Buddhism stuff, like their whole thing is like life is suffering. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't think that's a bad take. So if it feels bad and stressful when you're running a business, it's like, oh, well, I don't know, kind of makes sense. If it feels good, if you're having a great run in the business, like awesome, that's great. I'm not saying that's not possible. That's very possible. But I guess what I'm saying is like if it was so easy to do, pretty much everyone would just do it and they would just make all this money. But for the most part, people are trying to do remarkable things. There's a price to pay, and you have to break that invisible barrier. So I don't know what to tell you. Keep selling, keep going hard, keep improving your product, because you only lose when you quit. Cheers.